Welcome to Grand Rock Warehouse, and we are back from Sea of Tranquility Festival in New York. The topic today, Bee Gees Odessa. Is it PROG? Rand Kelly's here. We're going to talk a little Bee Gees, so get ready. Let's do it.
Grant is changing the world one track at a time on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Rand Kelly to the show. We are going to talk about the Bee Gees tonight. We've never talked about the Bee Gees, though I did a Bee Gees listening party with Schnee. That kind of got me turned on to this. But we didn't play any of this album on our listening party. But we're going to talk about the album Odessa that was released in March of '69. Bee Gees double album. It was recorded in New York and London. The question is, though, when Rand and I were talking about it, he was saying, well, this is the Bee Gees PROG album. And I went, is it a PROG album? I said, Rand, that's a great topic. So we're going to look at it. Is this a PROG album? Yes or no? I don't know. Welcome, Rand. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Did you know that
Nice
Did you know this is going to become a show when you mentioned it?
No. It's the only Bee Gees album I own. Which is,
What does that mean? What do you mean? You don't like
put
the
it together.
Bee Gees? You don't like.
I mean, I'll tell you what, my favorite song by them is Lonely Days.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that song. In fact, the first time I heard it, I swear to God, I thought it was the Beatles. I heard it on the radio while I was driving around in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it come on the radio in 1969. And I actually thought it was the Beatles. It sounded so much like something that they would do. And then it turned out it was the Bee Gees. And I was going, the band that does I Started a Joke? Really? I had no clue. But yeah, that is my favorite song. But I thought it was on this album, which is why I bought it in the first place a long time ago. But then I got rid of it because it wasn't on there. It turns out it's on an album called 2 Years On. But anyway, I love that tune. And when they went disco and stuff in '77 for Saturday Night Fever, and that god awful Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie, which is weird because I just happen to be wearing.
Yeah, that is odd, Rand. I think that's
I just happen
perfect
to be
timing.
wearing the shirt.
But that has nothing to do with what.
No, nothing to do with it. But I just was like, I was just not into it, like Staying Alive and all that. I just could get into that stuff.
Well, when I
That's
was a
just
kid,
me.
I didn't care for that stuff either. But now, as I've grown older, I can appreciate it. And the thing is with the Bee Gees and what I've learned, after doing this listening party and listening to the high caliber songwriting, production, vocals, it doesn't matter if they were doing prog or if they were doing pop or if they were doing disco. The same high quality standards were had in all their eras. They had to reinvent themselves by the time, in the 70s, main course. They had to reinvent themselves. They weren't selling any records, but they were able to adapt with the times. And
Always
based
were
on
great
what I've
musicians.
heard, I haven't heard anything that's really weak. You know what I mean?
They obviously had some sort of a machine behind them. I mean, pumping money into the recordings and stuff, but they made it back like, mega big time with especially Saturday Night Fever. I mean, I remember that album so huge when it came out. It was like, people talk about Michael Jackson's Thriller, but before that, back in 1977, Saturday Night Fever was just unbelievable. I mean, it was you could walk into the works in Eureka and there were stacks on the floor back behind the counter of Saturday Night Fever because they knew they were going to sell them all. And
Well, it's a perfect soundtrack. I will say that. But think about this. A lot of those songs that the Bee Gees wrote for that soundtrack, they wrote them like really quickly. I mean, Barry Gibb was like a machine. But look at the songwriting chops on Odessa. It's credited as the whole band. Well,
Yeah. all three of them seem to write all the songs. That's what I noticed when I was doing because I was listening to it on Amazon Prime, which if they put up the lyrics, they'll tell you who wrote the song, but they're not lyrics on everything, and they didn't put all the lyrics up. So it was only a few, but I noticed the ones that they did, it always said Robin, Barry, and Morris.
Yeah, Maurice, there was only like one track that I believe that he did co-lead vocals with Barry, but it's either usually
Robin,
Barry or
I
it's
wrote this in
Robin.
my note. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wrote this in my notes already, and I'll read it, of course. But
Go ahead.
Robin seems to be the vocal guy on this album. He's singing more songs than anybody because he's got that wiggle vibrato that he does.
Right.
Like I started a joke. I mean, I love that song. It's just a beautiful tune, but the way he sings it is just, oh God, it just puts you in tears.
Well, some people look at it that way, and some people find it a bit annoying. But I mean, the record
Well,
starts
it's
out
not
with
as annoying.
Odessa. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say it's not as annoying as the vibrato from Buffy St. Marie or Yoko Ono.
Well,
No, I think
it
Robin Gibb's
depends.
vibrato is it can be annoying to someone who doesn't like it,
Right.
and but I think most people probably don't have a problem with it.
What do you
I
think
would
it's
think.
more? I don't know that I always had a trouble getting over, but the more I keep listening to it, the less I have an issue with. But yeah, I mean, this is the album that, Robin quit over everything because they had a fight. He and Barry had a fight over which song was going to be the single.
Uh-huh. And
Well,
it turns out I don't know if there were any singles off this.
oh, there were singles. I think
Oh
Barry
yeah.
won, and then of course Robin left, and he came, and then Maurice and Barry did Cucumber Castle, and then Robin came back. But
I've never heard that album.
yeah, I was doing some research. I mean, really, this is all fairly new to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all hip to like the 80, the 70s stuff, but this I wasn't so hip to. Yeah, I had this on CD, but I really didn't pull it out to listen to it very much. But man,
Yeah.
it's just like, well, we're going to talk about it. I think it's a
Yeah,
major
yeah.
work from the 60s.
Yeah, I
Um,
took some notes so I can expound on, is that the right word? Expound.
we're going to go with Expound.
Okay, so I'm going to say to start the program, I'll
Sure.
say Bee Gees, Odessa, 1969. The first track is called Odessa, City on the Black Sea. This is a beautiful song to start the album, and it's definitely not rock. This is literally symphonic pop. This whole album is symphonic pop. Whether you
Okay,
want to
let me
call it
stop you
prog,
right there. Well,
whether you want to call it prog, there was no term back then called prog in 69. Now, you did have, okay, let's look at who else was putting out albums in 1969. Led Zeppelin, King Crimson,
hmm,
the Beatles, Abbey Road,
Moody Blues.
the Moody Blues, and Genesis released Genesis to Revelation. And Yes released Yes. Although in America, nobody knew about those first two Yes albums. I think I explained that many times.
Right.
We started with the Yes album. We didn't know anything before that. We just thought they just came out of the blue with Your Move on the radio. So, but anyways, the Bee Gees were already an established band, and a lot of people knew about them. But this album is really an outlier in their catalog. It's nothing like anything they've done before or since. It's kind of like, when you think about it, it's kind of like Yes Relaire. Just happen to have it sitting here because nothing before or after it sounds like Relaire. You know what I mean? So in a
Okay,
way,
fair enough. I
Odessa is
agree.
the
Yeah.
same kind of way. It's just different. There's so many things I could say about this album. So I'll just say it.
No, go ahead.
So it's about an imaginary shipwreck on the Black Sea, and the picture happens to be inside the original LP, which I happen to have. It's that. I don't know if you can see the whole thing,
Yeah, I
but
can
it
see it.
shows
I
a
can see it.
baby being thrown out of the big ship into the lifeboat. Little, not baby. I'd say he's about 2 years old, but that's baby, I guess. But anyways, yeah. So in the back cover, it has absolutely nothing on it, just a record range. And the front cover just says Bee Gees Odessa, Atco Records. And then this was just stereo, but it faded out before I could order it. It happened already. But anyways, now that song is way different than anything you're ever going to hear from this band. It's mellow. It doesn't do a lot of movement. It's very slow. In a way, it's kind of like Procol Harum's A Salty Dog,
Okay.
which I absolutely adore. That's my favorite Procol Harum song. But anyways, this song, it's about the date that this so-called wreck happened. I don't know where they got the idea. It's like, hey, let's do a song about a shipwreck that never happened. Blah, blah, blah. Well,
I know it was
originally,
based on something, but I don't have it in front of me.
right. Originally, it was going to be a concept whirling around that shipwreck, and all the songs were going to relate to that. But it turned out that that's not what happened. Turned out that, like you said, there was hostility with the brothers, and they couldn't agree on anything. And so one person wanted the concept album, the other person said, no, we just should just put songs on it. And I think Atco Records probably decided, yeah, the concept's not going to fly because, first of all, it's not real. I think they would say if it was a real story and you could really get behind it, that it actually happened. Like, say, Todd Rundgren's Utopia on Raw, where they do Hiroshima. I mean, that happened. You can get behind the emotion of that and bring tears to your eyes. But this, you're going to cry over a story that never happened. I mean, there's been a lot
What's any different between this than the Who Tommy? We're talking the same era.
Well, yeah, but that does happen to people where, you can't talk and you can't hear and you can't see. That's a reality. It's not very well expressed.
Yeah, but it never happened.
Townsend, well, it probably happened to somebody, I would think. But anyways, I'm going to move along.
All right.
So we don't get bogged down on that. But I do really like the first song. I think it's really good. There's a lot of orchestra going on, but it's not overwhelming orchestra. It's not like Jesus Christ Superstar type orchestra. You know what I mean? It's very kind of laid back. And this whole album is laid back. Let's just face it. It's not a rock and roll album. It's not an upbeat album. It's very melancholy. And it's kind of a what do you call it? Heart wrenching. Just the emotions.
There's a lot of emotions.
A lot of emotion. The chords are sad and then they're happy in the same song. You know how you do that with a minor chord and then a major chord, and But anyway, the second tune, I'm going to go to that. You'll Never See My Face Again. And that one, I didn't get the lyrics. And I just wrote very much like the opener.
Well, yeah. Well, if we're looking at this record, everything flows together just wonderfully. I mean, there's nothing that really sticks out. It's just like as an album, it just seems very solid, and a lot of these songs all kind of have that same kind of treatment.
It's a solid that doesn't connect lyrically, but I think it connects musically. And I'll get to that at the end.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking, we're looking at this record, Rand. So far, it's really not that much different than Days of Future Past, but it probably doesn't rock quite as hard in some moments.
It definitely does. There's nothing on here.
I mean, what's rocks on Days of Future Past?
Peak Hour. That thing rocks like crazy.
Or another record from this time period, The Zombies, Odyssey.
Oh, yeah, Odyssey and Oracle. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I mean, this, it's not much different from that.
Wasn't the 1969 Moody Blues album On the Threshold of a Dream?
Yeah, how much I think it fits right in there, and everybody calls that prog. You know what I mean?
Listen to this.
See what I'm going?
This is good. Yeah, but this is going to blow your mind because track 3 is Black Diamond, which is not the Kiss song.
No, Robin.
This picks up listen to this. This picks up a little bit, sounds a lot like the Moody Blues.
Yeah.
That's just accidental that happened, folks. So we didn't plan it. And Black Diamond's a good song, but it kind of reminded me of like something that Justin Hayward would write.
I agree.
And not
Justin could have wrote it. Justin could have wrote it, and then you put Robin's vocals on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I totally see that.
Yeah, exactly. And Marley Pert Drive is a bizarre song lyrically, but at
Mhm.
the end it explains what's going on. He's talking about 15 kids and he's got to go out for a Sunday drive and everything. And then he says 35 kids. He's running an orphanage. At the end, he says it's an
But this
orphanage.
is a total
But
departure than whatever else was on the record. I mean, this is
well,
what?
well, check
Country?
this out.
What would you
Check
call
this out.
this?
I'm going to call it this. Has a let it be feel in the tempo. I think they used a mellotron here because there's no orchestra on that song. But it's definitely a mellotron, I think. But that's a good tune. It sounds like when I find myself in times of trouble. Got that kind of beat, you know. It
Mhm.
doesn't do anything exciting, but it just kind of keeps moving like a steady ship. It just seems to have a kind of like a sea shanty feel to this whole album. Is pretty much kind of like that.
Yeah, but even though that track's a little bit of a departure, it still fits in. It fits the record perfectly,
Yeah.
you know?
And the next song is called Edison, but I wrote a song about Thomas A. Edison, but it should have been called Tesla because it's no secret that Edison stole all of his inventions from Tesla. But, anyways, I didn't describe that particular tune because I was kind of like, I don't know, it didn't really move me that much. Next song is Melody Fair. Now, this is a lady's name, Melody Fair. Another gorgeous ballad on an album saturated in ballads.
There's a lot of ballads.
There's a lot of ballads on this song, on this album. And that's all I wrote for that. And so the next piece is called Suddenly. A nice acoustic guitar opening here with some actual up-tempo pop with drums and bass for the first time. It kind of rocks. I wrote
Mhm.
danceable, very danceable tune. Didn't remind me of anything in particular. And so after Suddenly comes, is that right? Suddenly?
Whisper, whisper.
Whisper, Whisper. Okay, I wrote this. A 2/4 country beat here, very zippy. It sounds like Last Time by the Rolling Stones. I dig it.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, now I see that. It does
One,
sound like
two,
that.
one, two,
Yeah.
one, two, one, two, one, two.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so far we've got a couple of country songs, but like I said before, it really seems to work within the record. Why, I don't know, but it does.
It's bad. And number 9 is a song called
Lamplight.
Lamplight.
Yeah.
I wrote a slow marching song sung by Robin. He gets the most lead vocals on Odessa for sure. Yeah, this has a, like, but it doesn't really do that. But it just has that feel. But it's very light and orchestral. There's very little guitar on this album. Acoustic guitar in the rhythm. I get to this in a few minutes, but I'll go on to the next tune. Number 10, Sound of Love. This was the most boring song on the album as far as I'm concerned. I didn't like it. Another slow ballad, but this time it's Barry on lead vocal. It's okay. I'm not wild about this tune. I mean, what the hell does Sound of Love even mean? I don't know. But what's
I
your
don't know,
take on
but
that
I don't
tune?
have any problem with that at all. For
You liked
me,
it?
when I'm listening to it, all right, I think we know why I think Barry was predominant within the Bee Gees. I think a lot of his material really surpasses the material from Robin when
I
I
think
listen
that's
to
what
it.
caused the the internal disputes on this
Mhm.
album is that Robin probably wanted more lead vocal.
Well, they were
And then
in some
later
kind of
on,
battle.
did you
They,
say he left?
yeah, he left after he left.
I'll say so then
Yeah,
Barry had to take over
he and Maurice stuck together.
yeah, right. But didn't Barry do most of the lead vocals from then on? I mean, I know he does the lead
Yeah, I
vocal on
think that.
Lonely Days.
Yeah, I think everything changed after this because they were in a power battle. Robin wanted to be in charge, but it didn't happen. And I'm sure Robin probably took more lead vocals after this, but I don't think we're going to see as many. But I don't really know the whole catalog. This is kind of why we're looking at
I don't
this, is
either.
because I'm trying to explore it, and get some opinions for people in the chat because I really want to go down that road as far as looking at the whole catalog. But so far I love this record. There's not anything weak on it. Now, whether you like Barry or Robin's vocals, I mean that's nitpicking.
Oh, I don't really have a preference of either one. I think they're both great singers, and I can't
Right.
really tell Maurice singing lead. I don't know where he would do that, but
Maurice kind of sound well. Wasn't he on Whisper Whisper? I don't know. I don't have it up, but
I don't know.
I think he pretty much sounds like Barry. Robin was his own unique vocalist. I mean, yeah, they could sounded like brothers, of course, but I think Maurice sounded more like Barry than he sounded like Robin.
Okay, track 11, Give Your Best. Here's
Hmm.
what I wrote. This is literally country music, replete with banjo and
Yeah.
fiddle.
Yep.
180 degrees from the title track.
180, but it
It's
fits.
like they went off the reservation with this one. It's not bad. I said, oh, I forgot to read this. Think Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, I agree. But it's funny that there's so much country on this record.
Right. And that's what I was trying to get to. How we don't know who wanted what. Like the
Mhm.
first cut and this one are so different. It's obvious that it has to be composed mainly by two different people.
Yeah, even though everything's credited to the band or to the Gibb
Right.
brothers.
Right.
Yeah, I'm assuming the person who sang it probably had, like most bands, the person who sings it had their, you know,
Yeah.
stake in the track.
Nothing wrong with the tune. I actually like this one quite a bit, but it is country. I mean,
Mhm.
if you put this on the radio and you told people it was the Bee Gees, they wouldn't believe you, I
You'd
don't
never
think.
know. You would never think
You'd
of it.
never know.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Okay, so the next one is unfrickin' real. This is called Seven Seas Symphony,
Mhm.
completely orchestral instrumental, except for the fantastic choir doing only ahs on the majestic chorus. I love this, and it's definitely my favorite of the album.
So you like the instrumental?
I love orchestras
Okay.
because I used to play in band and I was always around orchestras one way or another. I just love orchestras. I did classical when it's exciting. I'm not a big fan of it when it's boring. That's why Stravinsky and Prokofiev and Mussorgsky and those guys are my favorite classical composers. Those Russian dudes, God, they're awesome. Tchaikovsky.
Wow, that's weird. I'm looking at, and then it's funny because you've got like two instrumentals. You got Seven Sea Symphony and then With All Nations.
Yeah, With All Nations. Glad you brought that up. Track 13, International Anthem. Another gorgeous instrumental with choir, no lyrics. It's really good.
Yeah, when they did a lot of,
That definitely sounds like an anthem. You could
yeah.
see them, you could see a whole group of people just la laing it out or ahs or whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
No lyrics.
No lyrics.
How do you like that?
I love it. And the fact that a lot of the early CD releases of this, they plucked that track off
Oh
to save
no.
room. Yeah. Now
Oh,
the
you know
version
that
that I've
happened.
got, it's got it on here.
It's funny you mentioned that because that happened on this album, Gentle Giant Playing the Fool. The
Yeah.
original release took out Brussels, a breakdown in Sweet Georgia Brown breakdown in Brussels, and it was on the LP, but it didn't make the first
Are you
CD.
talking
So
on
when
the one-way CD?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
no,
not the
it's
one-way.
Castle. Mine's Castle.
Oh,
It's an import. But anyways, when Derek Schulman got a hold of it with the DRT
mhm.
35th remaster, 35th anniversary, he
Yeah.
put it back on there because there's room for it now.
See, I can't
Okay.
remember. I've got the one-way CD, and I can't remember if it's all on there or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I bought the Castle import because then I got the DRT and actually I think for a live album, this one's pretty good. Sounds really good. But I love that record.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're not talking about Gentle Giant. Okay, so track
Well,
14.
that's a tangent, Rant. We're on a
We get
tangent.
up. No, it's a rangent. Remember we
It's a
decided.
rangent.
Yeah.
It's all good.
The tune I Laugh in Your Face. I
Hmm.
didn't really like this song too much. I thought it was definitely, you know, to world authority, some type of a protest song, probably against war, a waltz.
Nothing like a
You know,
protest with a waltz.
there you go. Your protest songs can be waltzes. I never
Yeah,
knew
see
that.
that? Not anything on here. I mean, you've picked out some tracks that you're going, Me, I don't see anything like that. I
Well,
don't hear anything on here that really
one needs to
causes me
understand,
to.
I've had this album a long time, but I
Right.
didn't start listening to it until we talked about it. So
Oh,
it's all like new stuff to me. So I only got 3 listens, and the first 2 kind of fell asleep on it. But that's not the fault of
uh-oh.
the album. That's more of
No,
my
it's
fault.
it puts you in that mood.
Oh, it's a very,
Soothing record.
I'm not sure what's more relaxing, this record or Pink Floyd, The Endless River.
Probably Pink Floyd, Endless River.
It's a close call, I'm telling
Yeah.
you. Anyways, the next track, 15, I
Hmm.
love this song. Never Say Never Again. This had to have been a single, was I right?
I think it was Melody Fair. Was Never Say Never Again? What was it?
Never say never again. Something like that. I just love that. And the harmonies on this are insane. Another ballad, great harmonies here I wrote. But yeah, it's a really good song. I like that one a lot. Then we're getting
um,
down to it. Got 2 more.
okay.
Sure glad I took these notes. I'd have been
Huh.
lost.
The first, I just was looking at this. The first song recorded for the album was I Laugh in Your Face in 1968. And it was the same day the group recorded I Gotta Get a Message to You. Okay.
I don't know that tune very well.
Okay. Prior to the release, there were disagreements over the song was to be released as a single. When Robin led Lamppost lost out to First of May, a Barry solo vocal, this led Robin leaving the group in early 69.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
Lamplight and First of May.
See,
But
I think Never Say Never Again is
I
more
could,
commercial than both of those.
well, I could hear that too.
Okay, speaking of 1st of May, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Number 16, 1st of May. And I wrote another mellow, slow ballad with the orchestra carrying everything here with Barry on the vocal. It's okay.
Only
It's
okay?
it just didn't move me the way some of the other tunes did, especially Never Say Never Again I thought it was really cool. I thought it was some kind of, the vocals kind of reminded me of If I Needed Someone by the Beatles, those kind of harmonies.
Yeah, this was the B
All
side of
3 of them are
Lamplight.
singing.
This was on a single, but it was the B side.
Yeah. Well, it still gets played. It wouldn't get played on radio, but at least if kids were buying the single for the other song, they would hear that.
Hmm. So that
Okay,
didn't
we're
really
gonna,
that didn't do anything for you.
well, like I said, this band putting this album out, it was just like, it's kind of like the Stones putting out their Satanic Majesty's Request, or Kiss putting out music by the Elder,
Okay.
from the Elder, I mean. Or what is another absolutely topsy-turvy release from another band that was putting out a certain style, and all of a sudden they just, oh, I've never heard
Dukes
it.
of Stratosphere?
Judas Priest, Nostradamus.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
Nostradamus.
anybody say anything good about that record, so I
We
never bothered
we
to
did that
listen
on
to
the
it.
Contrarians. We looked at
Oh yeah.
Nostradamus. Yeah.
Oh, I
Uh,
voted for
the,
two
the
Gentle Giant albums today.
okay.
Uh, The Missing Piece, and what was the other one? Civilian. I love both those.
Well,
Probably won't
we
win.
we know that already, Rand.
Okay, so I'll get off my rangit. Number 17, the
Yes.
closing piece, the British Opera,
Hmm.
pipe organ galore with the
Yeah.
orchestra here in the background. Love this closer. Very nice way to end the album. And then I read up on Odessa and discovered originally it was intended to be a concept album expanding the shipwrecked Veronica theme. The name of the boat was Veronica. theme, but eventually it just became a double album of songs. I keep thinking something is missing on my several listens, and I realized it's electric guitar.
Yeah, but there's
There's
electric
no
guitar on it.
solos. It's all acoustic. There's no solos anywhere on this. It's not for driving or partying, but quiet listening in a quiet environment would be best. This is a pretty unique recording from the Kings of Disco a mere 8 years into the future. The original LPs came in a red velvet jacket, which I will now show. Actually wrote that.
You did write it, and there it is. You know why they quit? They quit.
Probably it was too expensive.
No, people were getting having allergic reactions in the factory from it.
Oh, really?
That's what I read.
That's bad. My opinion, here we go. My opinion of Odessa is it's the only Bee Gees album I own, and prog is my favorite genre. So there you go, people. I'm giving Odessa a drum roll, please.
Go ahead.
7.5.
So, but my question is it a prog record?
I don't know.
Well, you're the king of prog.
It
Would
doesn't
it feel that?
Well, I don't hear.
Is it a psychedelic record? Is
Let me
it
tell you
a
something.
prog record? Because the way I look at it, it's every bit. If you're comparing it to Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, I don't see much difference.
Only one or two songs. What I'm saying is it's eclectic, it's unique, and it's all over the map. So to call it a prog album would be kind of weird. I would think that basically they didn't break any new ground like 21st Century Schizoid Man or, Yes, with, the first song Beyond and Before. I don't hear anything that's that exciting here. I do hear generally accepted orchestral arrangements over folk songs with a lot of acoustic guitar. There's not one electric guitar solo on this album. And that's what I kept saying to myself. What's missing here? Steve Hackett would have been awesome on this record. I'm just saying the way he plays.
But what you described was Days of Future Past.
Notes. Yeah, but even on that album, there's electric guitar. Justin Hayward, he's got it all over the place.
So you're saying that the electric guitar makes it a prog record?
No, I'm saying it's the only thing that I think is missing. I don't think this is a prog album. I think it's a different kind of album than the band normally does. And I'll just say that. I thought it was an enjoyable listen, very laid back, very laid back. There's not, this isn't the kind of thing you want to just go put on and party with or, drive down to the liquor store listening to. It's not that kind of album. You wouldn't be able to hear half this music if you were driving in a car. The road noise would steal it in the noise of the motor. You know what I mean? This is a headphone album. You want to just sit there and relax. What a way to wake up on a Sunday morning. This would be the perfect album for that.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting your day started, kind of like on a lazy afternoon or whatever. I mean, a morning. It's really good at what it does, I think. But
let me throw this out to you.
It's not a concept album. There's no actual progressive music on it. I don't hear it.
Is there progressive music on Days of Future Past?
What I consider in 1969 is nobody's heard it yet. And I don't hear that on this album. Everybody's heard everything that's on this album. It's just done different.
I don't think so. This isn't one of their big records. When it came out, the critics were pretty harsh on it. And now people look at it nowadays and consider it their master work. This is
you just
greatest thing they ever
Pet
put out.
You just described Pet Sounds. Brian Wilson loved that album so much. He talked the band into doing the vocals. They got it out and everything, and Capitol released it against their better judgment, and it flopped. And so they put out the Beach Boys
Smiley Smile. But
they also put out the Beach Boys Party at the same time.
No, Beach Boys Party was pre-Pet Sounds. That was late 65. That was for a Christmas release, late 65. Pet Sounds came out May 66.
You know your Beach Boys. I won't argue with that, but I
But
just thought it was
totally
that
different.
way.
The thing is, the reason they put out Beach Boys parties because Brian needed more time to work on Pet Sounds.
Oh, wasn't
So
there one called Best of the Beach Boys that they put out to make
yeah,
up
they
for the
put
lack
out.
of
Well,
sales?
they didn't put it out. Capital put it
Capitol
out.
did. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Capitol did. Okay, so Atco, let's talk about that company. This is the same record company that put out Cream,
Buffalo Springfield.
Iron Butterfly,
Mhm.
Led Zeppelin. Because basically, I'm just throwing it all in there. King Crimson. Yes. It's just, they're all in the same company. So, I don't know if the Bee Gees ever toured this record or this kind of music. I'm not sure how they could have. Without the orchestra, I don't know what they would do. I think that's why I think it's an outlier. I think it's just a unique sound at a time, 1969, that they would never come back to. I don't Does Trafalgar sound anything like this? This comes after, right?
Well, Cucumber Castle comes out after this.
Okay. Well, I never heard that. But does that sound anything like this?
I don't know.
You've never heard Cucumber Cast?
I'm starting this road down the
Ah,
Bee Gees Highway. And so far,
yeah.
everything that I've heard, I've loved.
I'm feeling the same way about Sparks. I never got into them, and I had an album one time by them in like 1979 or 1980 or so called Number One Song in Heaven. And I thought it was really cool, but for some reason I lost it over time. And I
Hmm.
never ventured to listen to any more Sparks. And somebody told me to listen to Kimono My House and the song This Town's Not Big Enough for the Both of Us or something
Hmm.
like that. My God, my head flew off my body. I loved it so much. So now I've got to get into 26 Sparks albums somewhere along the line and check out what the hell they're up to. But I like everything I hear. But we can't talk about Sparks right now.
We're on a Ranjit.
We're gonna range it.
So let me
So
ask you
anyway,
this.
yeah,
So
I
this
give
is
this a
not
7.5,
okay. I would give this.
possible 8. I guess I could go to an 8, really, because I'm not saying it's a bad album at all. I just think
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I think there are parts that I really love and there are parts that I really don't. But I don't dislike any of it. Does that make any sense?
Yes,
I tend to I tend to enjoy the symphony stuff and the orchestral
but
stuff.
there's a lot
Like
of
the
that
first
throughout the whole
song.
record, though.
Yeah, there's orchestra on every track, of
Hmm.
course. But in a way, well, Yes did the same thing when they did Magnification. You got lead guitar on Steve Howe, you got bass from Chris Squire, no keyboard player, and the orchestra's everywhere on every song.
Hmm.
So it's like, in a way, it's kind of like that. But I think Magnification is actually a prog album, but and this isn't. Again,
So this is just a
we didn't ha-
pop
we didn't have a
record. Is all
term
this
for that
is.
back then. Well, when people heard, and I didn't hear it yet, but when I first heard 21st Century Schizoid, man, I was just like, how did I miss out on this? I'm 4 years too late. How did I miss on this? It just happened that way. But yeah, I mean, it's just the Bee Gees were never going to be a prog band. I think this is the closest they ever come to it. I'll just say that. But
But
then again, I've never
what?
heard first album. I've never heard
They're
Two
just
Years
pop.
On. I've never heard Cucumber Castle.
If you
I've
like
never
the
heard Metal
Beatles, you'd like
Horse.
those because it's very
Yeah, I probably would.
Beatlesque.
All I ever heard was the radio hits that were coming on the radio, and there were a lot. Massachusetts, Lonely Nights. Oh my God, I started a joke. How can you mend a broken heart? There were so many.
So this record isn't prog in your eyes. How do
Well,
you
the
know?
actual
I have a
definition of
question. Where would this fit? What would you classify this as? Is it psychedelic? Is it a concept record? How would you classify this? Because I don't see it much different than Days of Future Past as far as I'm
I
concerned.
wrote it in the beginning on the very first track. Let me look at it here. I wrote it down. This is literally symphonic pop.
So what's Days of
I-
Future Past?
Symphonic pop.
Okay. What part were the Moody Blues ever prog?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
When?
I think it started to get really good on In Search of the Lost Chord, To Our Children's Children, Question of Balance, On the Threshold of a Dream, Every Good Boy Deserves Favor, and some of Seventh Sojourn. But I think on the second album, it really took off. I mean, Legend of a Mind is my favorite Moody Blues song, and that is loaded with the Mellotron. There's, it's just
There's
that's a
Mellotron on here
Mellotron
too.
yeah, a
Mellotron
little
on
bit
here.
on that one tune. I think it was all I heard. It was
So this is just symphonic pop.
Marley Pert Drive. I'm pretty sure that's Mellotron.
Yeah,
The
it's
rest of
Mellotron.
it, it's definitely an orchestra. You said they recorded it in New York and England.
Hmm.
I wonder if it was. We could get the studio. I mean, I wonder if they could find
Well,
out
it's
which orchestra they
IBC.
used.
I know IBC was one of them.
Well, I don't know what orchestra they used, but there's at least, a full orchestra on most of this album. Some of it sounds like perhaps a quartet playing orchestral instruments like trumpet and violin and cello. But there's those kind of instruments all through the whole thing. It's
Hmm.
very symphonic. And if they didn't have any lyrics on it at all and it was all instrumental, you would consider it a symphonic album.
Oh, I
But
agree
the fact
100%.
that they sing, to me, makes it a pop album. It's definitely not rock. There's no song I don't think on there that you could actually call rock. Rock and roll, maybe a little bit. But there's the country tunes are the most upbeat things on here. And Never Say Never Again, I really, really, really love. I'd have to say the first song, Marley Pert Drive, Black Diamond. What's the other one I liked a lot? Whisper. Whisper was pretty cool.
Hmm.
And Give Your Best, not too much. But the Seven Seas Symphony, to me, just, that could have been the whole album right there as far as I'm concerned. So it's orchestral. I wouldn't call it prog. I think it's an orchestral pop. It's really
Yeah.
well done.
I'd give it a
It's a
10
good
out of
album.
10.
Do you?
Oh, God, I think it's brilliant. I can't believe I've
It's
lived my whole life
brilliant.
without really diving into it. And the more plays that you get, the better it is.
Oh, I'm
And
sure. I haven't heard it very much at all. I could listen to it some more. But I'll raise it from 7.5 to 8.5. Just because I don't want to be a ding dong.
you're not being a ding dong. I want you to rate it how you feel.
Well, the more I talked about it, I realized I enjoyed it more than I thought I did. I think Seven Seas Symphony and the title track and the closing track,
Hmm.
those three tunes alone, plus Never Say Never Again, really raised it up from 7.5 to 8.5.
Yeah. It's just
I
the
could
thing
just go 9. I don't think it's a perfect album. I,
I
I
think
think I think
I
the
think it's
fact that
damn
the album
good.
broke up the band ought to prove that it's not perfect.
Well, you have power struggles and things happen.
Look at the Kinks. I mean, my God, the Davis brothers, they used to beat each other up on stage. My friend Billy said he used to see the Kinks live, and they would literally just start trashing each other right on stage. It's
Like
just
the
like unbelievable.
like the Gallagher brothers in Oasis. Like
I
the
know.
brothers in Black Crows. The
So,
Robin.
what do you want to tell the people about this album? You want to just say, "Hey, it's worth a listen, whether you like the Bee Gees or not." Don't
Well,
don't
this is the
judge them.
thing. If
Don't
you
judge
think
them by their disco days.
no, they were way more advanced than. Well, the thing that I do appreciate, I know that they were great songwriters. I mean, I don't care if they're writing this. I don't care if they're writing disco songs. You can tell a good song's a good song. And the thing is that, Barry, Rob, and Maurice, however they divvy it up, they were all wonderful songwriters. And this, to me, shows that. And if you think that they were all just disco, they weren't. And when we did the listening party when Schnee was on, he played some of the later stuff from the 80s and the 90s. He picked tracks, and those tracks were phenomenal. And by that time, I thought that they would just be crap, but no, they are way more than what you think they are. Even that later period, man, they're great tracks. Maybe some of those songs are a little bit more commercial in that type of production, a little bit slicker, but the songs are there. And, thinking about this is what, 69, recorded in 68?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this was slick sounding in 69, right? Wouldn't this be considered slick?
Well, I mean, Abbey Road, look at that, how good that sounds,
Right.
You can't beat that production. It's one of the best sounding albums in 69 ever.
This sounds brilliant too.
My friend Bill, he bought in 1980, he bought that one called Spirits Have Flown.
Yeah, that wasn't. Is that, like 79, 80?
He read a story in Billboard magazine because he used to get his hands on those every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
And he read a story about how the band was debuting that album to the record distributors. They put them on a jet and they piped in all this music through the headphone speakers of the album. And just as they were taxiing and getting ready to take off, they started Spirits Have Flown. As they were leaving the ground, the album started. It was perfect, and they just fell in love with it. So while they're flying around, they're listening to the entire album in the sky. Is that amazing?
Hey, that's the way to do it. Talk
about a promotional idea.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So and I remember he played that. That was a good album. We were listening to it and going, geez, this is really good. This is nothing like Saturday Night Fever. Oh my God. And that was only 3 years later.
Yeah. So the reason to do this show, okay, the king of prog, the prog master, the prog father says this is not a prog album, but I think it's darn close for the era. I do.
I'm just reading rant.
No,
it's
you
funny.
are the
when we were first talking about it, I got your attention by saying that's their prog album, and it just rolled off my tongue like I wasn't even thinking, and I had no clue because I couldn't remember anything about it. So I had to go back and rediscover it, and I'm going, this isn't as prog as I thought, but it's pretty damn good, and there's nothing really wrong with it, but I do miss electric guitar. I mean, that's like even with Purple
there's electric guitar on it,
Trower,
but it's not. It's
they probably said, here's what we want to do. We want to do acoustic guitars with an orchestra backing us, and we'll have a bass and drums on some of the songs. What do you think? And Atco goes, sure, go ahead. It's 1969. Why not? Ahmet Erdogan, he was open to everything. Unless he could make
this
money.
was Robert Stigwood who was the one who pushed them down this road.
Yeah, that was their manager, same manager of Cream.
Mm-hmm.
RSO.
All right. Well, the whole idea is.
Say about that.
So I guess this album's not a prog record, but I think it's close.
Well, what's prog? We had to do it. What's prog?
What is prog? What is prog?
It's whatever you think it is, baby.
There it is. This is the Bee Gees prog album. So if you're looking for something like this is a phenomenal record. So
it's a phenomenal record. I'll give it a 9.
I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, baby.
Okay, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because I don't know. I have to listen to more of their material. I got nothing to compare it to. It's the only one I own.
Well, it doesn't matter. When you do these listening things, you should only listen to the record and as it stands on its own.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You don't want to compare Yes, which is hard to do. You don't want to listen to a Yes album from 2011 and then compare it to something from 1972.
You want to know how old it is? Look at the original.
Yeah, that's an original pressing.
The original Atco albums that they're selling.
Yeah.
From the Atco catalog.
So there you go.
Genesis on there.
We
might have covered it, huh?
We covered it. All right. So check out Bee Gees Odessa.
Check out Odessa.
Let us know what you think in the comments. No, not bad. It's great. So we're just trying to turn you on to stuff in the warehouse. So check it out. Let us know what you think.
Try not to go in with expectations. That's one of my biggest problems. I always listen to new music that from a band that I think I know what I'm going to get. And when I don't get it, immediately I feel disappointed. And that kind of puts a whammy on my true expression,
I understand.
sort of.
Right.
Try
All
not
right.
to do that.
All right, cool. Well, if you haven't liked or subscribed to the Warehouse, please do. More great content on the way, though the content will dry up here shortly because I won't be in town. So
I need more subscribers. Just go to YouTube, please, and check out Redding Rand.
yes, give him some subscribers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm stuck on 673 or something. I don't know what it is, but
Cool.
sometimes people can't find me because I changed my name, but it's Redding Rand now.
All right, it's Ready Rand. Check his YouTube channel out. I'll put the link down below.